For the newly indoctrinated, Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files follows the story of a professional wizard in Chicago. We've started our podcast as a way to help break down the series' most important moments, characters, and lore. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.
Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 6.2, The Crimes of Griswald, where we are discussing the graphic novel Ghoul Goblin. My name is Tansenn, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
Hello. Harry Dresden, a Chicago private investigator and wizard, heads to a small, isolated Missouri town terrorized by Nevernever monsters. The singularly unfortunate Talbot family has suffered a curse that has decimated their numbers for generations, and only our hero can save them. That is, if he can survive hostile lawmen, the dark secrets of townsfolk, an ancient guardian spirit, and 2 deadly carnivores. Can Dresden cleanse the Talbot bloodline of its curse without a blood sacrifice of his own?
So we were talking about hostage negotiations?
Yes, they've just discovered the goblin at the funeral, and of course, they're all like, hey, you, stop. So he immediately grabs a hostage. And can I just say, when I first, he's like, you can call me Griswald. And my very first thought, I immediately went to Recess. Because isn't that Gus's? Isn't he like Gus Griswold?
Maybe. Might be. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I love that show. Shout out to Recess. Yeah, so then it was a little harder to take him seriously after that, because all I could picture was a little blonde kid with big glasses.
Randall. Randall didn't have glasses.
Randall.
Oh, Gus, right.
Gus.
Right. I don't know why.
Wasn't Randall was the
Snitch.
Yeah.
I've seen the show. Sure.
I know you, yeah. I was like, wasn't watching it for my sake, but okay. Well, not originally anyways. Anyways, yeah. So, yeah, Griswold.
So Griswold lectures the two of them while holding Amber. And Prez won't be able to hit it because it's too fast, and Dresden's magic is disrupted by the ongoing rainstorm.
Yes, of course. Convenient as always.
I love how what is he, a goblin?
Yeah.
He just spends the whole time being like, blah, 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 you started this. You're the reason this funeral's gone to shit. It's all your guys' fault.
I know, he's like, I just wanted to pay my respect. I was like, what the hell? Like, it was this whole weird...
Yeah, he's a weirdo.
Mm. Then Amber donkey kicks the goblin in the junk and gets away, because apparently goblin genitalia are in the same place that male genitalia are.
Well, he does stay awfully human. Like, I was wondering about that, because, like, his face kind of shifts, like, the features and proportions. But other than that, like, at least when unlike ghouls we encounter later on in the book, so we've had descriptions of them there and that. And then, yeah, when we get the ghoul here, there is somewhat more, maybe not even like as fully as they can go, but there's more of it. But the goblin never really, he just kind of goes from like a creepy gravedigger guy to just kind of like a
creepier gravedigger guy.
Yeah, like it just kind of a smushed face.
Well, it's the same thing in like Lord of the Rings, though. You know, the hobbits and what is it, Gimli, and then
I don't remember them changing into goblins.
Y'all, come on. Have you not seen Lord of the Rings?
You know what?
Gimli, what's his name?
Smeagol.
Smeagol, there we go.
Oh,
yeah.
Gollum. I'm like, Gimli's one of the dwarves. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Smeagol and Gollum.
Sure.
Yeah, because he did used to be
he was like a hobbit or whatever.
Yeah. And then he kind of did this into, I don't know what his exact race is called in the books. I really haven't read it. But he is kind of like, it seemed like, humanoid.
Yeah, well, I guess that's just what I'm saying is we never see. So perhaps, yeah, goblins basically are just...
But it also says, that Harry's the only one who can actually see the shift in him. So for everyone else, he does still look human.
Yeah, but again, we just don't see. I mean, I know when, like, ghouls transform, everybody can see. Like, I mean, yeah, he's looking through the glamour or whatever. But anyways, point being is just, yeah, I don't know how different goblins look or whatever. So presumably he is fairly humanoid. And, yeah, she nails him. She cans him good.
Yeah, I mean, the line, luckily Amber wasn't contaminated content to play the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you get him.
Yeah, because he doesn't really have, like, well, I mean, aside from being, like, too fast, but he doesn't really have a shot, of course, because he's, holding Amber in front and everything, too, right? So Prez doesn't really want to take that risk. But, yeah, she's like, here, let me help you out. And then they're all like, all right, game on. And Harry still manages to get some spells out. He throws, like, some wind and fire at him anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, they definitely try to apprehend the goblin, but they're not able to capture it, and it does get away.
Yeah, as per Harry's MO, it's really just a lot more destruction of property than anything else. Take out a couple of gravestones, headstones.
Yeah.
Statues.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and because he has the flu from going after the swamp monster and everything like that, and now so he's got the flu, and he's got the fractured ribs, and the spell, and the rain, and so...
Just not happening for him.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like, Prez starts opening fire at this thing, and then Harry joins in and just whips out his gun and starts taking a bunch of shots, too. I'm a wizard, but I carry backup.
Blam, 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 blam.
Blam, 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 blam.
So anyways, they piss off basically all the funeral attendees.
Yeah, Joseph Talbot is quite furious at the whole thing.
Which is fair. If you're at your two siblings' funerals and somebody starts firing off shots and...
get into, a big fist fight altercation, swinging shovels and then taking hostages, and then everybody just fucking starts opening fire. Yeah, I'd be a little like, excuse me.
You're legit, bitch.
Right?
Just couldn't have waited until the service was done.
Yeah. But this is where you get, the first suspicion thrown onto Joseph, right? Because he comes off so, this is unacceptable, and I'm going to remember it come election time. And you're like, oh, you're obviously a jerk and a bad guy, because they're the only ones that ever threaten, the elected officials.
Politicians!
What?
Politicians!
Exactly. Yeah. Let's get rid of that damn sheriff so I can run the town, and stuff like that. So, it starts making him look kind of like a dick.
And then kick the guy below you so that he can kick the next guy, and eventually Harry gets kicked in the face and sent back to his hotel.
Right. Well, he already got, kicked in the ribs and shit, so not kicked.
Yeah.
He got slanted.
Kicked everywhere else.
Right. He doesn't need much of it. Well, it's technically Harry was the first one to get kicked, and now it's going to come full circle. It's just going to come back around to him.
What's that, Newton's law of motion or something
like
that?
Oh, the
little
gravity
balls.
cradle thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The only nice thing is that the rest of the Talbot clan has a little bit more hope for Dresden.
A little bit. Not that we know that yet. We
Yeah.
just get to see them all standing around looking very morose and
kind of curious.
I looked at the other Talbot children and I could see
angry.
hope in their eyes.
I'm just disappointed. Yeah. And then Amber figures it's a good time to make out with Press because he saved her. And they just ruined a funeral.
Well,
pouring rain with a goblin.
You gotta have your romantic moment anyways.
Yeah.
Same thing with Spider-Man and Mary Jane hanging from
anything and
everything. And they're like, well, we might as well kiss while we're here.
Yeah. Got nothing better to do.
Yeah. Standing on solid ground.
Yeah. Boring. Any old couple can do that.
That's a fair point.
I mean, come on, admit it. If you had a boyfriend that could fly or spin webs, or you would totally not want to just stand around on the ground like every other common girl all the time.
Well, let's wait until the newest Spider-Man movie comes out in December, and we will just see what Zendaya thinks about that. The only thing that I'll say though is that looking at the art, this is when the first time we see the rest of the family in person, not in photographs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the Talbot parents, they were having kids for a really long time. Because it seemed like their first children would have had to have been late 20s, nearing 30s or something like that for when Joseph is, right? For him to already be in politician level, right? And yet you've got these two kids here. The one could be a teenager, but one of them looks like she's 13 at the maximum, probably younger.
Yeah.
These kids look so little.
Okay, so if you go 13 and add 17, you're looking at 30, right?
Yeah.
Which seems reasonable because it's the two oldest that right? Joseph's the third in line. So that seems about, my parents had 7 kids, and there was a 17-year gap from the oldest to the youngest.
Which is insane. First of all, for regular people. But in my point is that for people who have been cursed to die, the fact that they had 17 years to get kids out is also crazy to me.
Well,
that's pretty amazing that they managed to do that before they perished.
the rest of these children have all died before they've been able to start families. Or
Yes, this
currently,
is
you know.
true.
So it just seems insane to me that, like, you know.
Although they're kind of getting double teamed here too. So
Still though, the other, like, whatever. I don't know if it's the father or the mother that's came from the family line.
who
But
knows?
either way,
Yeah, maybe she's like the youngest of like 17 kids. She
a while for
so
them.
maybe little Ella here is like
that
the
means
last.
her parents had time to have 17 kids. My point is that a family this cursed shouldn't be having time to be knocking out this many kids.
Well,
If
it's
they're
only
not
like it's only like
quadruplets.
one in every
Maybe they're Catholic.
right.
Well, but my point is that they're still being given a lot of time. Even if these kids were all like 5 years old, that make more sense. But it's like they
Just-
let these people
but
not only have kids for 17 years, but then live in.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they
And
said
who
they
knows?
did die.
I mean,
Never
there
mind.
could be
Never mind. The parents did die when the kids were young, and the older two had to take over the responsibilities. They did say that in the comic
Yeah.
already. But still,
So
they were
that-
still given a lot of time.
But I was gonna say if let's just say the mom because that's easiest. So the mom's family, right? So she notices all her aunts and uncles, grandparents, whatever dying. So she's at
She's
the
like, "Fuck, I gotta get
if she's
pregnant
like
now."
at the bottom of yeah, exactly right.
That's
she's like
fucked up.
they start. So she's like boom at 17. She's like marries her high school sweetheart and is like let's go because we're
That's
never
why it's
gonna
fucked
have.
up.
So
you
know.
shouldn't be getting pregnant then. You should be like, again, the McFinn
If
curse
your
is
whole
different.
family
The
keeps making
McFinn curse is different because no matter what, the bloodline had to persevere no matter what. We don't know about for this one. So
Yeah.
for this one, I think the responsible thing to do would be like, stay celibate. Don't curse more people into this family curse.
But
like,
but they don't know that it's a like prior to
again,
this.
we're at about 100 years into the curse.
Yeah, it depends how superstitious their family.
Every
you
single
know?
person in my family dies before they hit 25 from the weirdest thing.
Yeah, but we don't even know. They haven't said all
I know,
what
but,
kinds
like-
of, right? So I'm like, everybody has like a heart attack by 30. You may be like, dude, my family has like
A horrible medical history.
the worst genes, which is also not a great way to then propagate, but
Right.
still, it might be like if you want to get married and have kids, you're like, dude, everybody in my family dies at like 40, so let's get on this.
Which is why I think it's irresponsible. Like, my
Yeah.
kids are on their own when I hit 40. Fucks to be you.
But it does explain maybe why they wanted to. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back again and take a look at the
And
because
even
the
more.
parents
Because,
didn't
like, again, like, if we're saying 13 at the oldest, she was probably, like, close to a newborn when they died. So it's like, that's rude. You didn't have to keep having kids that long.
yeah. You never freaking know.
And I get it, they're
like,
Catholics, sure.
well, okay,
And it's a
I'm from a Catholic
generational
family.
thing
I
too.
can-
My-
I
so-
know. I can insult Catholics because mine kind of is. Certain members of the family believe that the rest of
my
us
best
are
friend
devout.
growing up, she was the second oldest of 7 children. They were not Catholic. And
Aw, and you're the second youngest of the living children.
I am. But her mom dropped dead of an aneurysm at like 36
Okay.
and left behind 7 kids and a
Holy
9-month-old. Yeah,
crap.
it was shitty as fuck. It was and so
random
unexpected.
freak accident, I guess.
I know, but maybe they just think their whole family is like
Random accidents.
Which is still why it's crazy.
Anyways, the point is that yes, I'm just saying is that she was 36 and had like 7 kids. And
I
the
just
whole-
feel like at a certain point, whether or not you believe in the supernatural or not, you'd think to yourself, maybe not. If I live after 30, I'll have kids.
it's just a different generation, right? Because see, they're all grown up now. This book is like 20-ish years old now too, because it took place just after full moon and stuff like that. So you're
Well,
still coming
this
off
is
like
my
my
advice to the
generation
new
and the one
generation.
before. Well, see,
If your
and none of
family
your
is cursed,
generations
it's rude to have
it's like
children and curse them
none
too.
of them want to drive and none of them want to have kids. That's pretty much.
No, none of them can afford to drive and none of them can afford to have kids.
Well, okay.
Which is, again, another point here. If you can't afford to have kids or raise them, don't have them, which is like the curse, right? You're gonna get fucked up. I'm gonna die in 5 years. Better have as many kids between now and then as I can. Oh well, they're on their own after those 5 years.
Maybe they were really
The
rich.
government says I only have to keep care of them until I'm alive. If I'm dead, not my problem what happens.
Maybe. I don't know.
You know what's not buckling under pressure? Foster care.
Please don't send us hate mail.
Fuck you, Talbots. Stop having kids until you figure out your shit.
Apparently. Well, the good news is none of these guys have had kids. So there you go.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Which
they,
is,
they
again,
are they are
here's another
ending the
point.
cycle of procreation.
I was just shitting on the Talbot family, but now to shit on the monsters who are killing them or curse them or whatever it was that happened.
Yes.
it's nice of them to get this on the road rather than like, I don't know, they took like what, like a 40-year break? They're like, let them have a family. I'm tired. They took a vacation. Now at least they're like, okay, like let's get this show on the road. Like there's 7 of them. We don't have time to wait around.
That's the thing. Do we even really...
Although, maybe the other thing is that they looked at these 7 kids. They took a vacation. They were like, let's go do some other shit. We'll come and fuck this family up a little bit later. We've got other shit to do. And they're like, fuck, they had 7 kids. If we let these guys all start having kids, we're going to be running across the whole world trying to keep track of all of these other cousins and nephews.
Just start.
So maybe it wasn't a common thing for them to all have 7 kids. They just looked at this family like, oh my god, if we let you all start procreating, we're never going to stop this job. So now they're like, we really got to pick this up. I can't do this for the rest of my life.
Maybe.
And now
But
they're gonna
two,
kill
it
the
sounds
kid.
like you're assuming that this Ghoul and Goblin have been responsible for the entire thing.
Well,
which
you know, it's in the title.
I don't get that. That they're hunting them here and now. I don't get that that's the... Yeah, because no, there was like the car
they're-
crash and
yeah.
stuff, right? So we don't know...
No.
And honestly,
When I say, I don't mean to say the monster is necessarily Ghoul or Goblin. I mean the thing that cursed them in the first place. The curse itself as a monster or the entity who played it on them.
is
whatever,
took a
taking a
break
vacation,
for.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about... But we don't know for sure that all the other ones were that young, though, when they died, were they?
I'm not saying that they were.
Okay.
I'm just saying that because we don't know
Well, you
at
just kept
all,
saying,
right?
like,
Because
having
it says like
kids
some things
before
like they were able to go to Europe and blah 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 and become like super rich and famous or whatever before they suddenly died from a random car accident. So it seems like most of the people did get a chance to have a life and
relatively
business and
decent lifespan.
whatever. But
Yeah.
this one, now they're like, oh fuck, 7?
No.
Like we will not be able to keep up if they have that many
Yeah.
fucking offspring. So we got to stop this right now.
Right.
There you go. Maybe. So anyways, all of that takes us to the sheriff's station.
Yeah.
And Press getting his ass handed to him by the grumpy old sheriff that
Use
doesn't want to be
protection.
shown up.
Against curses.
And the sheriff demands that Dresden be removed from the case.
Yeah, he's like, he's like, whatever his expertise is, and he's like, ugh, he's a wizard. He's like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to hear it.
That's another funny
So
thing.
he doesn't even really know. He's like, you just brought this guy in and he caused a bunch of shit, and then he's like, oh my god, it's even worse.
That's another funny thing too, is that it's like this like small little like town in the middle of nowhere is like, how dare you bring a wizard on my force? And Harry's like, bitch, like I deal with this from like the fucking Chicago PD every week. You think I'm gonna care about your dumb little town?
Yeah, right.
You know how often I get off order? I just ignored the FBI like a week ago.
Yeah,
I don't want to
right.
listen to you throwing me off a case.
Like, exactly. It's like, yeah, it doesn't really hold the same weight. Like,
You know how many members of the FBI I murdered in less than a month ago?
Yeah.
4. It was exactly
Yeah.
4. Although he was only indirectly responsible for 2 of their murders.
Sure. Yeah. Good point.
'Cause-
Point is, this sheriff is like,
Or 3? Yeah, because Roger took out Ben, and then Roger and Wilson took out. So, yeah, there you go. He only murdered
you really-
I know, I'm
really going to technicalities, Harry didn't do any of them.
Responsible for all I just realized, yeah. He didn't actually
do any of them.
technically murder any of them, because he was taking out the wolf wall. She took out Denton, so...
he really just pants them all.
He was
Yeah.
Dresden is like, it's like Marcone and his property. It's like, technically, you can't prove I was responsible for any of this, even though it's my land and my men, and you know I'm a big ass gangster. But technically, you
was gonna say,
release
when you,
me
like,
after 3 hours.
When you strip Harry down and you find like the broken glass with the blood in it and the broken cups and all of this shit, he's like, yes, listen, I do have evidence from every single crime spree, but if you look at the details, it was never actually me. Same thing with this curse. I was there at every murder, the random car, the random this, the random that, but it was all different.
But it
You
was
can't
not
prove it was me.
actually. I didn't actually cause them though.
That's
but
hilarious.
yes, so
My point is though, is that
that's
this
even
tiny
more
little
impressive. It's
sheriff.
like, I took out 4 FBI agents and I didn't even have to lift a finger.
The sad thing is that he
Made
lifted
them
so
all
many fingers.
kill themselves until the last one.
My point is that this sheriff, it's like, you don't even know who you're dealing with, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is funny as we go throughout the rest of the series too, because monsters essentially have the same conversation with him. It's like, I will kill you, Harry Dresden. He's like, bitch, do you know who I was just dealing with like yesterday? It's like, I know he kind of always goes up against something a little bit worse every book, and it gets bigger and badder every book. But at the same time, sometimes I think that he should just throw it back, and it's like, motherfucker, like, there was this one time when I had, like, a loop guru to my left and the FBI to my right. An alpha pack to...
He's like, now I'm dealing with, like, yeah, Don Knotts, Gomer Pyle, Sheriff Andy. It's like, yeah. He's like, no, you know.
Right.
Doesn't really...
Other times, too, when, like, people are mouthing off to him, he's like, man, I've been in this exact situation with, like, 25 more broken bones than right now. Like, this is a good day for me.
All right.
And my point with, like, the sheriff here, it's like, all he has is a cold right now. Like,
Yeah, right.
this is about as good as he's ever gonna
It's
get.
a busted ribs. He cracked those ribs pretty good just now. So, and he's wet. I mean, come on. He had to do it out in the rain.
Yeah.
It sucks having to go around in
Wet socks.
Especially like jeans and a trench coat and shit.
And he wears those, like fucking cowboy boots everywhere, which sucks to be filled with water.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be such a pain in the ass to slog around in that. That's like so uncomfortable. But
I think he would dress more like Manhunter, you know? Like, you think that he'd be more used to that?
But that's what he doesn't need the big vest with all because his duster has such huge pockets.
Which is fair enough, but like,
and then
my
it
point
gives
is,
you
like,
that
his
absent-minded professor as he like digs through and has to like take 10,000 things out of his pockets to find the piece.
My
of chocolate.
issue is that, like, he's got big feet, but it's not like it's the most uncommon thing in the entire world. Like, it's not like cowboy boots are the only shoes that can fit him.
Oh no, that just
Like-
is more his aesthetic. He has sneakers sometimes, and he had a pair of work boots once.
Well, he should continue to wear them because, like, this poor
But
guy is.
I
always-
agree, like the work boots and stuff would be.
They're not terribly practical.
Well, they would be a
They
little
are
more
practical.
Oh, no.
He's gotta kick shit in the face all the time.
The boots? Cowboy
The cowboy boots are not
I
terribly
mean, they are
practical.
called shit kickers. You can do some damage with some cowboy boots. But I do think that out of all of them, probably the steel toes would be right. Because then when you're getting stoned, I mean, they're a little bit of a pain in the ass to like run around and shit. But as someone who's kind of had to do some of that and lived in work boots, I'm like, it is.
I've owned several pair of cowboy boots in my life. I've
Have you
never
really?
worn. Well, 2 pairs. That's several.
For you, okay.
I have never ever worn them to an extent that they were probably broken in as much as his probably are.
Yeah.
But they're just not the most comfortable shoe.
No.
I think even when they are broken in.
Yeah, and I have never owned a pair of boots to that point. That I'm
And-
sure there's a
and,
lot of
like-
cowboys out there that would argue that they're super comfy once you break them in, but I cannot.
To me, it's just like
attest to that
wearing
one
rain
really.
boots all the time, which just, it's sweaty all the time. And like, there's not enough, like, you know, motion in your ankles for all this, like, you know,
But see, that's supposed to be part of
martial
it,
arts that you're
support.
like fighting
They're
for your
not good
life.
for you either. My dad used to wear cowboy boots all the time. Cowboy boots and a suit. Because urban cowboy, you know.
Dad's a weirdo.
A little bit. But it ended up doing
Love
his
you,
back
Peter.
major damage.
Damn.
Yeah.
See?
It's like women in high heels.
Orthopedics? Yeah, I wouldn't put
Yeah.
cowboy boots down for an orthopedics recommended choice. 9 out of
No.
10 probably don't pick
Probably
cowboy
not.
boots.
Yeah.
My point is, though, is that even though we're only
It's his
book 2
one.
and
It's
a
his
couple of
one bit of vanity. Okay, he doesn't fucking own a mirror because like
One
demons
bit of
can-
vanity.
Yeah, really? What?
His-
I think
his-
wearing a massive duster is pretty vain, honestly.
That's what I meant. Like his clothes, his outfit.
Oh, I see.
I was like, he doesn't fucking own any mirrors. He doesn't know or care if he's shaved half the time. He doesn't know or care if his hair is combed half the time or if it's even washed.
I assume that
So,
was part of his aesthetic, really.
His one thing is that, yeah, he's fucking like jeans and cowboy boots and his fucking duster.
It is,
And
you
it
know-
gets stripped from him almost, well, at least for the first few books. I think he starts managing to hang on to his clothes a little better in later books. But in the
Me
first
thinking
few...
of all the times he ends up naked in the
I
later
was
books.
well, yeah. But when he's dressed, those are the clothes he has on. But yeah, instead of like friggin' like Old Glory and sparkly t-shirts and purple sweatpants and crap
Good
like
point. Butcher had him go through a lot of costume changes in these early books.
yeah, and it was always like shitty or like it was the first book I think, right? Easter is canceled because when after the storm or whatever, he's got to run over to Linda Randall's and again it's like sweatpants and
Yeah.
and the Easter's canceled t-shirt because
Easter bunny body found. Easter is canceled. Something like that.
yeah, Easter's canceled. They found the body.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like he always ends up. So it's like whenever he can, he's like, "Fuck you, man." He's like, "I'm wearing my fucking like button down and my jeans and like fucking duster."
I guess it is funny to think, too, that this is always done by Dresden's point of view in the aftermath. So, you know, literally every time he describes himself, it's not like somebody else, like, describing how they see Harry. He's like, so this is what I was wearing. I looked so cool.
Right.
Except for when I really, really didn't.
But it is funny how, like, every single book, he's like, so imagine me, leather duster, jeans, cowboy boots, standing over the city like Batman. Pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Should've seen it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean. That's like his one. It's like, yeah, I can't handle the rest of it. He's like, I'm just kind of large and gangly and awkward, but fuck, man.
My jacket fucks. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so Harry goes back to his apartment after he's kicked off the case.
His snazzy motel.
Yeah.
I did like this. This was a kind of nice depiction. I liked the loop guru. I kind of liked the way they drew that was. And kind of like I say, I was like, I wasn't like 100% behind like all of the character depictions, the choice of illustrator style, whatever you want to call it for some of them. But
and the artist,
that one shot of Karen like at the funeral was nice. And I did kind of like, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a scary looking giant fucking wolf.
I find as these 6 issues go on, though, that like the artist really like fell into his groove and like got more familiar with the characters too.
And that is fair too. Like, well, I don't know how much longer. When did this come out compared to the novels?
Like around Ghost Story.
But yeah, because I was going to say, like, oh, yeah, as they got more familiar and the series got more popular and people, but I was like, I guess actually by this point, there's no excuse for not necessarily knowing or being, I mean, this particular artist obviously doesn't necessarily have had to have been a fan, but
there was at least enough content that he could have, the Dresden Files
really
wiki fandom page existed at that point.
I was going to say, if you're going to get hired to, like, do it, I was like, know your audience, like, find out who these people are, but whatever. I mean, again, it's still a hell of a lot better than I could do.
Listen, it seems, he got, like, chiseled jaw, dark hair, tall, right? And that's what he drew, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, to be a little bit more,
His style is
And I think part of it, too, is, like, at this point, because even though this is the second graphic novel we're covering, this was not the second graphic novel that was made.
Ever produced,
right?
yeah.
So he was probably looking at the artwork that already existed for the other ones, well, I have to do my own shit.
Well, yeah.
And probably tried to, also make his own kind of pathway in the series as well.
Yeah, make it his own and stuff like that. And like I say, as far as the art itself, I can't.
Yeah.
But it was just, I do still like, I mentioned it last one too, I do like though that they give Bob like the black speech bubbles with the white writing and stuff in the invert, even though Bob still looks kind of a bit more evil than I think Bob is. Yeah. He's more of a wisecracking sidekick than the idiot. But anyways.
We're talking Hamlet skulls here, okay? Not like, I was instantly gonna name that, Carrie, not like Carrie skulls.
yeah, exactly. But anyways, I did really like the flashback, the loop guru scene. That was
which does help place the story. Like we're only like weeks after.
Yes.
The full moon.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool. So then he shoves Bob in a drawer because there's a knock at his door, and he's like, "No, not the." Oh, fine. Which again doesn't happen a shit ton, but every once in a while, and Bob's like, "No, don't." Stuff me in a pocket, shove me under the bed, throw me in the microwave. Like, dude, can you just not?
We're not there yet, but eventually when we meet Butters and Bob or whatever like that, and he's like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, myself.
Just talking it out.
I just talk to this skull sometimes. It's not like he replies. I just eventually
It's just, everybody does. It's like talking to my cats. Right. But yeah.
So the mayor shows up and demands that he stay on the case.
The old vulture. It's rude. She does. That's literally how she's drawn in these first few. And like right here, like that hat, it just gives me not like exact, but like reminiscent flashbacks to Longbottom's grandmother. And her old velvet hat with the vulture on it. I mean, she doesn't have like the red and green coat or whatever that they dress Snape up in, but that's just Ray. She's just very like stern and crotchety looking in this.
You're a disappointment to the family,
the
Neville.
The only thing it's missing is a fucking little stuffed vulture.
She absolutely looks like she hands out toads to children.
Yeah, and it's funny. I have to admit, like like sexist world brain or whatever, they don't specifically, when they're pointing out in the cemetery, there's just two people, there's a man and a woman, and he's like, that's Mayor Crombie, Cedar, that's the word. I'm like, he has a
got
C.
it.
I was so close to my next guess. And I didn't click that.
Birch, bitch.
They were pointing her out as the mayor at first. I naturally assumed that the dude, and I was like, wait, what? And I had to flip back, and I was like, oh, okay.
Sexist. Women can be mayors too.
I know, that's what I was saying. I was like, welcome to the sexist world that we live in, is that because they didn't specifically throw in any kind of a pronoun, or they didn't say, hey, that's Michael talking to Mayor, right? They were just like, and that's Mr. Mayor Cedar or whatever. Yeah, and I did. I thought it was like husband and wife or whatever, but I did. I totally was like, and then she was like, oh, and I kind of had to flip back. I was like, okay, yeah, they did just, all right. I was like, did I misread? But I was like, oh, they didn't specifically. But yeah, shame on me especially since we just got.
This is a small town. Like, they elect, like, cats to be their mayors.
They like cats?
Cats, yeah, in America, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000,001 cats as mayors in America.
Ugh, I don't doubt it. There's just like a tree or so. Oh, no, the tree.
The tree that owns itself.
The tree that owns itself, yeah. Anyways, so
That's fun. We'll look it up after 10.
yeah, it is. It's a neat little So we'll have to reference
When
that
paperwork grows old and accidentally locks itself into a weird loophole.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so she comes and she's like, it's about time, because he didn't answer his door instantly. So she's obviously Mrs.
He was like laying in bed too. Like, how late is it? And she's like, bitch.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say because it was just kind of a dark day. I mean, funerals aren't usually held late. They're usually earlier. Or,
He had to go to the police station and get reamed at too.
He didn't go. No.
This was at the same time
He was told.
Meanwhile.
So it's hard to say if it's
Well,
afternoon.
he's got
or
busted
evening
ribs.
or-
He was laying in bed.
Yeah, no. And he was soaked, ready to come back
the
and
mend.
shower, and But
Probably
anyways.
not a lot of places to sit in a motel.
No, not usually. I spent a lot this summer, and your bed was the biggest place to hang out at any given moment. Which is not super weird, but also semi-weird when you're sharing with somebody you've never met before, and you both just, your bed becomes your world, and you're, eating there and reading there. And
Had your own beds though, right?
we did have our own beds, thank
Okay.
God. Yes, no, they always had 2 beds, but it's kind of funny where that's usually you invite your friends over when you become an adult. It's your spouses and partners, and it's just weird to suddenly be a teen, have somebody that you just met, and all you do is hang out in your bedroom all day with them.
Summer camp.
It's anyways, besides the point. It helps when they're not crazy, but that's something completely different.
She lets herself in.
So she's very no nonsense. Yeah, close the door, please. I'd rather nobody see me here. And he's like, what the fuck is your actual problem? Right? And, she gets the question. Who are you talking to? My assistant back in Chicago. So then she's like, I don't care what the sheriff says. I want you sticking around or whatever. And he's like, well, the sheriff only wants me gone because Joseph wants me gone. And she's like, precisely. I only want you to stay because Joseph, I don't know if you're useful. I don't know if you can do anything, but he wants you gone. So I want you to stay. And Dresden's like, thank you. Okay. So he gets this whole political. And I love how she just, does she pick up his?
Essentially, she signs a wizard onto her political campaign.
Yeah, but she hands him the folder or whatever. I'm like, how do you just know what? I was like, either you brought it with you or but it looks like she's picking up the things that and she just picks it up and is like, here. I'm like, how do you even know what that folder? That could be his takeout menus for the town. What?
Well, she's the mayor. She knows what the menus look like in this.
Okay, but it's in a folder. She just picks up the folder. Who the hell knows what he brought in there? It could be his graphic novel that he's reading or some shit. I'd say print it off for the internet, but Jessica can't do that. So, can you just imagine, hey Murph, so I want to read this fan fiction. Can you just print it off for me? I gotta go on a run.
I was just gonna say, Harry literally only his only option is to keep Playboy magazines under his bed because he can't use a computer.
Yeah, exactly. Right? He can't go.
Poor boy's been relying on Miss August for 20 years.
Which year though?
Does it matter? I'm sure Miss
It
August
does,
was
because
pretty
whenever
every
you
year.
hear people references, it's always Miss August 1977, and that's the one that they apparently 76 was okay, 78 was
They were allowed to be
whatever.
naked right up until 74.
But it's everybody always seems to have a specific year.
This is a super side note, but some random guy sends a Playboy magazine to every single senator, every single month, every single year. He just bought a subscription for all of them because he just hates them all. So he just has signed them all up. And for years he's been doing this, sending every senator a Playboy magazine for years and years.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
That
right?
is kind of funny. The only thing is I'm such a waste of money to... you're not supporting them, and it is funny, but that's an awful lot of money you're spending just on...
Maybe he gets a bulk discount buy. I don't know.
I don't know. Does he get all the perks? He gets all the freebies that... So he's got a whole collection of Playboy mugs and
It's my birthday today.
Beer koozies, tote bags. It's every time he has to show up for a function, that's what he brings. He just brings all his free Playboy swag to I have what are there 70
Kids coming to your house trick-or-treating and just handing out a million Playboy beer cozies that you've got left over. Give this to your parents.
I was gonna say, it's here's some Skittles for you and something for the folks. Your dad's bringing you out today. Here you go, Dad. Enjoy.
Our guest
It's the pens, the little pens when you flip them upside down and the clothes fall off. Take a little. Oh, you're too young, Jessica.
We're not allowed sexual harassment pens in the workplace anymore, okay?
That's like, oh my god, we've been watching, so being back home and at a place that actually has cable, because I haven't bothered paying for it for myself for years. And watching like the game show channels, which I actually really love because I like a lot of game shows and things like that. They're kind of fun. But been watching a few episodes of like the original like match game, so from like 1977 and 1978, and it's so funny. There's a couple things that really stand out, like Richard Dawson sitting in the front seat of the game thingy. Are you familiar with like how the match game?
Not really.
You know, you watch Snatch Game on RuPaul,
Yes.
right? So yeah, it's the same thing. You have 2 rows of celebrities sitting there, and then you have guests off to the side, and they have to guess. So that's why it's called Snatch Game. It's based off the match game.
Okay.
Right? So stupid Sally was so stupid. How stupid was she? You know, that whole thing is how that game went. And you've got Richard Dawson, like, sitting in the middle of that front bottom row, just pulling out a cigarette and lighting it up. It's just, like, so something that's not even, like, remotely close to anything you can do anymore.
Unless you're in
I'm
Italy.
sure some of them are probably,
Unless you're in Italy.
Yeah, or a casino.
Yeah, if you're on a reservation land.
Yeah, you were talking about that. But anyways, but some of the things too, right? Like again, where like the host, it's probably sort of like the harmless flirting, but in this day and age, it also comes across as like a little bit creepy and like kind of cringy, and you're like,
Oh, it probably was creepy and cringy then, too.
well, more so. But I mean, again,
All of your assistants are being horribly sexually harassed on your show, and it's in the script.
yeah, exactly, right? But it's like, yeah, exactly, just talking to, like, some of the female, right? Because you do, again, a lot of these girls seem like they're, you know, like, 20-ish, and, like, they're cute, and, you know, and then he's all, like...
Flight attendants had to retire at 35 then.
Yeah, and exactly, and it's just like, wow, I can't believe this was so much... And at the same time, it's, like, also... more reserved, because like again there's a lot of like sexual innuendo and stuff like that which goes with the show, which does make it funny, but it's like again just watching some of them like have to, like here you would just be like his ass, and they're like his tushy, or you know what I mean, just like where they're still making reference but they're also keeping it cleaner than we potentially would today, or not making love instead of being like they were banging, and the, you know, it's just like, anyways,
Where do you draw your lines?
where do you, right? It's like, yeah, it's like you can totally, I say sexually harass everyone, but
So anyway, she grabs a random folder that's not porn. My bad, that was a tangent.
That's okay. It's going to be an outtake.
Yeah. But essentially, yeah, she's like, listen, he doesn't want you on the case because he's my political rival, and he thinks that, like... Well, here's the weird thing, is that, like, I feel like a politician would really jump on the whole, like, she's employing a wizard on her team. She's clearly crazy. That helps my case. But nah, he's just like, get out the hell out of town, which does make sense because he did kind of ruin his siblings' funeral.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And they really do kind of push a little bit to make, well, I mean, depending on how you view things. But yeah, if you're the type to like pick up on the things, then they're like, oh yeah, they're totally making him, right? They're like, he runs this whole town. He's kept this town afloat. And yeah, and blah, 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 and threatening the sheriff and like the mayor's rival. So you're like, oh, dude's got something to hide. Dude's like got something going on.
And it's funny because this is the third oldest too.
This is the third
So
oldest.
potentially it seemed like the older two really weren't doing, because it's like this is the one who brought in all the money. He like is keeping the town afloat with his economy.
Yeah,
business,
well, like you
blah,
say,
blah.
he's the more political minded. The other
Yeah.
was, because wasn't the other guy, I want to say construction or something. I don't remember if they ever
I don't
say
know if he ever
what.
got a job. He just it would
Maybe not.
literally, as far as I can tell, it just says the oldest two were tasked with raising the children.
Yeah, okay, so
kinda the only
obviously,
thing
maybe
I
I don't
got
know where
from
I
him.
pulled that from if I'm thinking of something else. But I mean, yeah, presumably they did have whatever jobs. But yeah, they were more content to just live their lives, whereas Joseph is like, no, I want to figure
Own
out
this
what the
town.
fuck. Yeah. So the mayor, again, very crotchety, very stern, very dun-dun-dun sort of thing.
She's very direct.
Very direct, but again, it kind of puts her out there, kind of shines the spotlight on her, as in like, something is afoot. What's up with the mayor?
And again, I get like this whole like, you know, politics is so cold cutting and you got to be on your game all the time, blah blah blah. But at the same time, it's like, lady, this dude's siblings were just brutally murdered.
I know, and
Right?
you're in like
and his
some
parents were we can't
backwater
necessarily say
town
murdered,
of,
but-
you know, like, again, this isn't New York, it's
yeah,
Boone
like
Mills.
everyone knows everyone. Like,
Yeah,
damn
like,
chick.
how big is this town, you know, a few hundred, couple thousand, like...
He's so lucky his siblings got murdered. This is gonna help him grade to the polls. It's like, damn, woman, chill.
Yeah. And we get another nice call back, because he's still thinking about, werewolves and stuff, and he's like, the Silver Bullet Diner. He's like, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, so he goes and he gets a more proper introduction to Amber.
And this is where Mama can finally be happy about the blue beetle.
This is where Mama can finally be happy about the blue beetle because
Yeah.
it is
Correct.
more
Not blue.
realistic.
It is now
It's
no
not
longer blue.
Yeah, it's mismatched and hodgepodge.
So the artist did do some research.
Yes.
Or
I-
received better notes.
or something. Yeah. So yes, thank you for that.
Dresden meets with Prez at the local diner. He learns a little bit of Mayor Cedar's history, and that Joseph Talbot owns a successful import-export business of New Age stock. And Dresden eventually asks Prez to help monitor the other Talbots, even though there's more Talbots to monitor than there are the two of them.
And we get a little bit of a standout here because
I guess there's only 4, hey? There was 6 total, and the 2 oldest died, so it was only 4.
no, there were 7.
There is 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think now. There's the oldest 2, there's Joseph, there's the...
Alex.
Yeah, then there was the kind of shifty one in between, and then is it Megan?
Yeah, Megan took over watching over
Maddie.
the younger 2.
Maddie, so I thank you. Maddie is looking after the last
Two youngest, Maddie.
Maddie. And then there's the one we don't really see a lot about.
There's
They do go talk
there's
to him
another
later.
brother. Yeah, there's another brother.
Then
Okay,
Joseph, then Sarah,
two.
and...
Alex?
I think it's Alex.
Was Alex the old? Is it Chris or something that's the middle one that
I don't know.
has a brief cameo?
We'll get there.
We'll get there. So anyways, but yeah, a little background on Cedar, up-and-comer, tried for the national scene, got herself appointed to Egypt. So right there, you're like, ooh, something else about the mayor.
Egypt.
Connection. Just casually tossed in there.
First, I thought she was maybe the bloodline for the people that cursed
Oh,
the Talbots in the first
that
place.
she was
That was where my
descendants
brain
of
went. Yeah.
the boogeyman. Yeah, I didn't get that specifically, but yeah, it kind of plays off the same way with the creepy and the thing and the working against Talbot and stuff like that.
Sadly, I was wrong, but it sounded cool in my
It's
head.
right? Like obviously they're
Nice
pointing to
theory.
something, so it's a very plausible. So he's like, I can't run after all these people, so you go keep an eye on them. I'm gonna go poke around and do some shit of my own, and
That's also great because, like, where Harry comes from in Chicago, like, he's the underling, the underdog. Like, he's got to do all the grunt work. And I like that as soon as he shows up here, it's like, all right, go trail everyone. I got shit to do. All
right,
like,
deputy.
Instantly in a small town, he's like, all right, bitches, I'm in charge. Takes every little bit of power you can take.
he's like, no fucking way I can tell Murphy what to do.
Yeah,
no fucking
right?
way she'll let me tell her people what to do. But you don't know better.
Yeah,
you came
right.
to me, so
I've got this super cool fake police badge Murphy gave me, and I'm going to use it.
right.
Consultant, bitch. Literally just reminds me of the Doctor Who paper every single time. It's like, don't look
Psychic
too
paper.
fast.
Yeah, look out from the.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. So heads out to Talbot's place, and it's kind of out a little bit in the middle of nowhere. We got some rolling hills and stuff, and
Yeah, he finds it surrounded by an iron fence wrought with every occult symbol found in a perfect circle around the entire property.
yeah. Well, he gets to a bunch of
is
dream
weird.
catchers and stuff
Yeah.
first, all hanging
In the trees.
in the trees before you even get to the. But yeah, that was a little bit of fun artwork with or just the idea of all the different symbols and things. And I can probably only tell you what half of them are at a glance. There's a couple.
To be fair, probably half of them are only real.
Well, that's potentially fair too. But there's a couple that even if they don't mean anything particularly, I'm like, oh, it has that familiar look. I just can't place whether that's like Hindu or Tibetan or what. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I've seen shit like that.
Well, it's a lot of astrology signs too. But I like that there's also like Wemyss warning symbols in there as well. It really seems like the artist was just like, I don't know,
Which again are
symbols.
probably taken from other things. Are you
enough.
looking at like the big circle with the cross through it?
No, I'm looking bottom right of that picture. The 3 rings.
Oh, the biohazard.
Yeah, the biohazard.
It is biohazardy, but it's also like Trinity. Like also the one slightly up from it. It's between those, but also you will see depictions of that like in talking about like the Holy Trinity and things like that.
Okay.
So it could actually, but yeah, it might not technically be the biohazard symbol. It's could actually
Point is,
be,
you've got the
but-
Star of David, and you've got some astrology, you've got the peace sign.
You've got the peace sign. You've got the
Illuminati.
the eye, Illuminati, the infinity sign.
Got
Hashtag.
some onks in there. Which
It's fun. I'll throw it on our
onk.
social media when this one comes out.
But yeah,
It is cool.
King Triton. If you look at the bottom picture, it's totally a Triton.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, all kinds of stuff and things. And he's like, it's locked. I needed to get inside, but he's like, I could sneak around, but I'll do shit. So he's just like, hey, Joe, open up.
Yeah.
I like, too, how quickly it goes from, like it's sunset, right? And he's drawing, like, these oranges, and it's just instantly blue. Nighttime. Like,
Yeah.
I
It's a
know.
very, very quick
Very
sunset.
quick.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does feel like that. Sometimes I'm like, it, because they'll do that in, like TV and stuff like that, too. And I'm like, it doesn't. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, as we're now getting into winter here, so, like, it starts getting dark at, like, 4 o'clock, so I am actually still out and about, and you're like, hey, it's about, oh, night. I'm like, although me and time have a very odd relationship anyways.
It's true.
Yeah.
this podcast always records 2 hours later than our start time.
Yeah, you know, shit like
Also
that.
true.
But yeah, sometimes it seems to take forever for the sun to go down, and other times it's like literally in the blink of an eye, and it's like dark already. So anyway, so he's like, yo, bud. And again, like it's like all this open space you can see between there and the house, and then all of a sudden Buddy's just there with his shotgun.
Yeah.
I was like, well, where did you just pop out? And he's like, I can take care of yourself. And he's like, what the? How do you even know what's going on? Like, we just got here. But,
Yeah, some people don't need a wizard getting all up in their business to know shit's going on.
apparently.
And here's the thing, is that I actually appreciate Joseph, who's clearly looked at this family line and went, something's not right.
Yeah.
Something
Which
is
his
not.
parents could have done and saved a whole lot of trouble by not giving birth to Joseph and the rest of them.
Although, who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe his parents, maybe that's part of why they died so young, is they were looking into shit, too. And be like, oh, we got to get rid of these
But
guys now."
having lots of children while they did it. Are you going to be the Scooby-Doo gang, or are you going to be parents? You gotta choose. Shaggy and Fred and Velma, Daphne, Velma. There we go.
Velma.
Do they have children? No, they don't, because their number one priority is solving crime.
However, Daphne and Fred did get married, and they do have kids.
Do they?
I don't know if Daphne and Fred do, but Sarah and Freddie definitely do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They're actors who aren't cursed.
Details.
Their characters are
I
not.
don't know. I still think that's funny. One of my favorite things from Buffy, and she was saying when she tried out for the pilot for that, and one of her friends at the time, she's Sarah Michelle Gellar was like, oh yeah, I just had like a pilot, and her friend's like, oh, what for? And she's like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and she's like, oh, that's okay, there'll be another pilot next year. And then it went on to be like this huge hit. It was like, oh,
Worse.
sorry, that's okay, there'll be more. And I was like, anyways. So yeah, so he's like, let me in, and he's like, I don't really need you, stay back, I'm not going to expose myself to you, and then
they
shit
hear
starts
snarling
happening
in the
inside.
distance.
Yeah.
And Talbot decides to open the gate. And Dresden instructs Joseph to go inside to his panic room.
Yeah. So he goes in. So I have to admit, when I first saw this, I thought that foot, my notes here are feminine ghoul foot? And like something about it just did look sort of feminine to me. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm imagining
Such
that.
dainty ankles.
Seriously, it was like something like that where I was like, is this gonna be? And then when it pops up and I was like, oh, next part confirms, and I'm like, I'm totally thinking that's like, yeah. So yeah, because you see, and then she's got boobs and stuff, so you're like, okay, well, it's definitely a girl.
Yeah.
So I was like, Amber. So I was like, right from the start, I was like, ooh, right.
It did seem quite suspicious there, didn't
Yeah, I was like, oh, dude, I totally know who this is.
She's too good to be true. And it was true. She was too good to be true.
This moment, though, with her pose in front of the full moon, and, like, the snarling, ripped up clothes and the claws and everything like that.
More
and the
werewolf?
fucking jacked forearms.
Yeah, I know. Like skinny, I was just like, blah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Exactly.
And I'm angry
Totally
right now.
Yeah.
Totally seems like, yeah, you got another werewolf shit on your shoulders.
Yeah, somewhere between like the werewolf.
But then she opens her mouth and it's like a 14-foot tongue and it's like, eh.
I know.
Yeah.
And I will say that does keep with his later depictions of ghouls and things too, that like their jaws like elongate and are really like misshapen and misformed from like a human face and things like that. Like not even proper like animal snouts kind of a thing. And yeah, they're all like really like disproportionate in a lot of ways, so that kind of fits with like the skinny little upper arms. And then he's like all of a sudden the elbows is just like boom.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's like, oh, I want to taste you. And he's like, my timing had to be perfect. And I was like, so you're going to pull out the gun again? Is this going to be the typical, like, up close and personal? And I'm just going to, like, blam, blam, blam you in this stuff. No, he actually whips out some magic.
He did.
I was like, all right, Harry.
He fuegos the beast.
We brought that up, though, earlier. I think, I don't remember if it was Stormfront or Full Moon.
And it was the last one I
listened
listened
to. These early books, he sometimes just doesn't use magic. And you're like, wait a second, like, you only use magic for, like, showy fun stuff, not for actual crime fighting,
Yeah, that was
right?
just in the last episode that came out on Friday with the second episode with Matt. And you guys were talking about that there was not a lot of magic use and stuff like that. And yeah.
So it is funny that, yeah, he's like a wizard. And we're like, oh my god, he used magic.
I was like, all right, go for the gun again. But I was like, no, he already did the fake out. So yeah, so whatever, he kind of stuns her.
Yeah, he can't quite find his gun to be able to finish her off, unfortunately. And then they hear a gunshot, and the ghoul is upset by this and leaves, which confuses Harry immensely.
So she's like, and he's like, I don't understand why she just got pissed off and laughed. I'm like, okay, whatever, works for me. And then he goes in, and this is again where we get back to the graphic novel. We have
blah, blah.
Yeah, fresh kill.
It's a pretty picture, though. It's like a blooming rose. It just happens to be his chest.
Yeah. It just happens to be, But yeah, the gun is totally fucked up or whatever, and Joy's not doing so well. So right there, you're like, oh, well, I guess he wasn't the bad guy.
Right. Yeah, he's pretty fucked up.
This concludes our episode 6.2, The Crimes of Griswold. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnally's.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.